And hear what the Saints have to say about this upcoming football season.
We'll get to start talking about it, injuries and games and all that good stuff soon. But like I said, if you guys have any questions about logistics over the next few days, find me or Nick or Ricky and the boys after, and we'll let you know where we're going to be and how we're going to set this thing up and how we're going to make this operation flow. But right now, we'll open up to McElveen.
I'd like to welcome everyone here today. On behalf of the entire New Orleans Saints organization, our coaches, our players, our staff, and our ownership, our eyes, our thoughts, our hearts, and our prayers are with the people of New Orleans and the Gulf Coast region. In addition, I'd like to express our thanks to all of the people here in San Antonio that have once again opened their city up to us, as well as to the many displaced people from Louisiana that have been given a temporary home at Kelly, USA. We really appreciate what you've all done here, including the governor, the mayor, the folks at the Alamo Dome, and here at the Marriott. We had a chance to go over to Kelly, USA today to meet many of the people that have lost everything and been relocated here. And you could see in their faces that they're struggling, and they've suffered great losses. Many of them were Saints fans, and we were very pleased that they were happy to see us. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to them, as it does to the many thousands that have been so horribly affected by Hurricane Katrina. Before we get started here, I'd like to address a few issues. The first thing, and I believe the most important thing, is that although we are practicing here in San Antonio, and we're trying to locate a place for our home games, we are still the New Orleans Saints. And our commitment to our city is stronger than ever. We have many goals to accomplish, and one of them is to become a leader in the revitalization of New Orleans. We want to be on the forefront of making our city stronger. Our team is representing the state of Louisiana and the city of New Orleans. And we'll take that responsibility seriously. We'll play this season with the same toughness, determination, and resiliency of the people of New Orleans, and we'll make them proud. We'd also like to announce today the formation of the New Orleans Saints Hurricane Katrina Relief Fund. Mr. and Mrs. Benson will be making the first contribution to that fund, and we'll have a lot more information about that fund in the coming days. Finally, Jim and I are here to answer all of your questions. I know that many of you have been covering us for days, and we very much appreciate the professionalism and the consideration that you've given to us. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Victor, where does the team, and in particular Tom Benson, want to play the remainder of the home games after September 18th?
We want to play in the Superdome, but obviously that's not going to happen. We would like to play our games in Baton Rouge, but we have to see what's possible. And obviously the league, the NFL, the league office has a lot of say, and they're going to be participating in that decision. So we'll just see what happens.
City officials here are spending time trying to map out a plan to put together an incentive package to ensure that the Saints are here for the remainder of those games. Are they wasting their time with that? I mean, is it possible that you could be in San Antonio?
Well, we're trying to explore every possibility. And San Antonio, the Alamo Dome, is certainly one of those possibilities. Again, there's no decisions have been made other than the first game, our first home game, which is going to be in New York City. After that, no decisions have been made relative to those games. We're hopeful that a decision can be made in the coming days. But there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered, a lot of things to be considered before that decision can be made.
What are the most important issues? Talking to people in Louisiana and Baton Rouge and trying to sort through specific issues? Or?
Yeah, we're talking to everyone.
Yeah, but that you're going forward and trying to figure out if it's feasible in Baton Rouge?
We're pursuing this on several different levels, including Baton Rouge. We've talked to the Alamo Dome people. We're exploring all possibilities.
Can you just talk about the pros and cons of playing in San Antonio versus that team?
You know, I'd probably rather not make a comparison between the two right now. You know, we're still pretty emotional about the events of the last week, and yeah, it's hard to be analytical when you've got this emotion that, you know, we're all feeling.
Other than San Antonio, Baton Rouge, what are the other options?
You know, obviously, one of the options is what we're doing in the first game, which is playing in the visiting team's city. You know, that disadvantages our team having to play on the road, but you know, that decision's been made for the first game, so it's one of the options.
Said the NFL has obviously a lot to say in the matter. Have they expressed a preference or do you?
No, they're doing the same thing we're doing. They're gathering information, examining all options, and they've been in communication with us. And again, you know, that will resolve itself in the coming days, or we will resolve it in the coming days with obviously with their input.
Regardless of where you end up playing your home games, does it seem more and more likely that you guys are going to set up a base here for a long period of time? Or?
At this point, our intention is to set up our practice base here in San Antonio.
For the season? Or?
Yes, at this point. It just doesn't appear that we'll be able to return to New Orleans in the near future. We've got a lot of personal issues we have to deal with our players and our staff. You know, we have kids that have to go to school, and you know, a lot of other issues with families, and so we think it's fair to them that we establish a base here, regardless of where ultimately we end up playing the games.
And you're going forward with issues like that, telling us, suggesting to maybe set up.
We're moving forward with those issues, yes.
How difficult has it been for y'all and some of the players? We were talking to some of them today saying, we're in the same boat. We've lost our homes. We've lost a lot of things that we own too. How hard is that for you?
Well, it's difficult, but, you know, I'd be embarrassed, and I think we'd all be embarrassed to compare our challenges to those we've seen on, you know, the news reports of the people that remained in New Orleans and have gone through the suffering that they've gone through. And that was very evident today when we went to Kelly, USA. We visited with a number of people, and, you know, it brings tears to your eyes, and, you know, to see, you know, your peers, people in your city, your fans that have suffered so much. And so for us to complain about anything would be, I think, an embarrassment to ourselves.
Jim, you're dealing with unprecedented circumstances. Have you thought much about what you say to your team tomorrow before practice, or how you address this whole issue?
Well, I've addressed them every day last week on the situation, and I think Mickey kind of hit it on the head. I think once you start feeling sorry for yourself, you go upstairs and watch TV, and that kind of goes away. And you know, I've done it myself. You know, sometimes you wonder as a head coach, you know, how, you know, it's a hard situation. You know, especially what the commissioner did, putting us behind the 8 ball, playing the first game on the road, and we just went to Oakland for a week. You know, now we're going to go to Carolina, and we're going to go to the Giants in Minnesota. But you know what? Our players are pretty resilient, and our guys are close, and we'll find a way to overcome this. And I think the good thing about it is I told the players the other day that the game was on at the Astrodome, and 25,000 people were watching it, and we played our asses off in the game. You know, we didn't win the game, but we played hard, and that's what I expect from this team the rest of the year, and I know that's what I'll get. And I know our guys are going to play hard, and it doesn't really make a difference where we play, the situation we play in. I think these guys understand there's going to be a lot of eyes and a lot of people watching them.
Do you have a count about it in terms of numbers of players, personnel, family members? Is there sort of like a number for the Saints family that will be based out of this area?
Don't hold me to this, but I'm thinking it's probably 400 or 500 people when you count them all up.
Have you heard from all of your employees? Is everyone accounted for?
Everyone's accounted for. Today we went to Kelly, USA, and the first person that came up to us was wearing a Saints t-shirt, and an older gentleman, and it turned out he was the father of one of our employees that had been relocated here and hadn't heard from his wife or son. And so, and it had actually worked for the Saints for 20 or 30 years and retired quite some time ago. So it really brought it to home that, how small the world is, of course. And, it was really heartwarming to visit with him and actually to bring him back to the hotel with us.
He had not had any contact with his son?
His son knew where he was and and his son's an employee of ours, was coming back to San Antonio and knew that he was there and was coming to get him, but he hadn't talked to him.
Coach, how have you spent your time, I guess, personally and professionally over these last 3 days? What were you able to do with your family, and how much work have you been doing in the last 3 days?
Well, the family's back home. They're really in Florida. And, really, I've been busy trying to, help the coaches out. We've been trying to get ready for Carolina and dealing with player issues. And that's really all I've been doing for the last 3 days.
In terms of your preparation for Carolina, as compared to what it would be under normal circumstances, are you far behind?
We're not behind at all. We're short a copy machine, and we're kind of crammed in some quarters, but actually we're not far behind at all. We just, I just left there. That's why I was in it was 30 degrees in this building. So really, there's our preparation from Carolina will not. Our guys will be ready to play. It's not gonna hurt us one way or another being here at all. We just had to make some different arrangements practice-wise. Basically, we're on the same schedule, except we'll lift weights after practice, and we'll let the media in after practice instead. We usually let the media in the locker room for lunchtime from 12 to 1 o'clock. I think that's right, Mike, right? And then guys, we lift at 7:30 in the morning. Well, we're not going to do that because we don't have anywhere to lift, so we'll lift afterwards and let the media in the locker room after that. Nothing else will change the practice schedule. Meetings will be all the same time frame.
Did you lose anything in terms of player files, scouting reports, anything along those lines that you're without at this point that you might have had if you were back home?
We're without some of those things right now. We haven't lost them. Our facility is dry, and we were able to send a team of people there on Friday to recover some of the things that we need immediately. Actually, a lot of the things that we need immediately. But the facility's intact. It's actually being used by FEMA as a headquarters, and they've been really good about protecting the things, the assets that we have there. Let me say one thing. Jim and his coaching staff and a number of our people have done really a remarkable job in putting aside their personal issues in order for us to prepare our team and conduct our business. And really the lion's share of the burden has been on their shoulders, and they have handled it very, very well. And, I guess can't say enough about the leadership that Jim's provided, as well as the assistant coaches, and again, a number of other people on our staff.
Jim, from a football standpoint, wouldn't it be easier for you to play here in the Alamo Zone?
Well, it'd be easier if we just stayed in our complex and played the Superdome, but we know that's not going to happen. If we don't have to get on a plane, yeah, it would be easier. But here's our football team. I don't know if you've ever seen our home record compared to our road record. So if they think they're playing on the road every game, we'll probably win a lot more games.
I know when we were at Kelly USA today, over and over again, the fans kept coming up saying, we wanted to watch you, can we come see you, can we come talk to practice? Are there any plans to try and make that happen?
Yeah, in the back of our minds, yes, but until we know where we're going to play, it's hard to implement any of those kinds of plans. I know that the NFL Network was very gracious in broadcasting our game back to the Astrodome so that the people in the Astrodome from Louisiana were able to see our preseason game, our last preseason game. Yeah, I mean, we would like to make provision for all of the displaced Louisiana people to be able to see the Saints play. We get the sense from them that it's uplifting, and we hope it's uplifting for them. So anything that we can do to make that happen, obviously we'll do.
They said even practice, they're like, we're happy, we want you to Just wanted to see you now.
Well, it didn't look like there was a place to practice there at Kelly USA, but you know, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to have some of them out.
Have you considered the possibility of asking the league to allow a third feed into this television market, the Houston television market? Obviously, the New Orleans market is non-existent at this point, to where people can just place and see the game.
You know, we've got a lot on our plate. It's a good question to ask. I can't say that we've asked that yet, but you know, I know we've got a lot of people here that are very considerate of you know, what has happened, and anything that we can do to you know, to help that situation, we'll do. It's a good question to ask.
Do you have a date for that game in New York yet?
No, we haven't been told yet the day or time. And I know that there's a lot of people in New York working very hard on that, and they'll get that to us as quickly as possible. And there's a lot of people at the league office that are doing a lot of work behind the scenes to help the New Orleans Saints, and we're very appreciative of that.
Jim, your road record notwithstanding, do you remember what your reaction was when Mickey or Mr. Beck or whoever told you you're playing that game on the road? You know, is it credible, whatever your reaction was?
I was kind of surprised, you know, to be honest with you, because I thought that we would play in here or LSU, Baton Rouge. And I don't think any of us really understand why, but I mean, that's not really my mind to take. If I was Dallas, Philadelphia, Washington, I'd probably be more upset than I am, because that gives the Giants 9 home games. So, but you know what? Again, it's everything has gone on with the city and with this football team the last 2 weeks. Lenny, that's probably one of our least of our concerns, you know, us playing on the road another game, because we actually played pretty good on the road.
Your preference to play at LSU, I assume, is because you'd like to stay in the state of Louisiana?
I would like our fans to have an opportunity to watch us play.
Jim, you said, we were talking to some of the players before we came over here. I guess he went back to Destrehan and was able to talk to some people. He used the same term that Mickey did, uplifting and things like that, and it's a good diversion for the fans. It's easy to say, and it's kind of trite, but do you believe that your team now has a sense that they are playing for a purpose just beyond football? They're playing for a city, and a city that's undergone an incredible battle.
Yeah, I really do. I think they believe that, and if we can give somebody hope, if you know, there's a lot of people. You know, the city's not a big city, but one thing they do, they love the Saints, and they know you wherever you go in the city. It's the only city I've ever been in where they know the coaches, they know the personnel, they know the scouts, they know the GM. Most places you go, they don't know those people. They know the head coach and a couple of players. But this city knows everybody, and you know, they love their game of football, and hopefully, you know, we can play well enough and we can win enough games that they'll be proud of us.
There was a report, a published report today that Mr. Benson is strongly considering keeping the team in San Antonio permanent for the NBA beyond this season. Can you comment on that?
But you know, no, not really. I mean, that's the farthest thing from any of our minds. You know, our commitment to New Orleans is stronger than ever, and you know, again, we want to be leaders in the reconstruction, revitalization, whatever you want to call it, of New Orleans. You know, in the immediate future, you know, we recognize again that, you know, we're representing Louisiana. We're representing the city of New Orleans. And, you know, I don't know how important a football game is, probably not very, but as Jim said, if we can uplift anyone, if we can make any of our fans feel good about themselves or about the state or about the city with just the fact that we're out there, much less playing as hard as we're going to play, then obviously that's worthwhile to us. So that's what our focus is on.
Jim, early in the week for this question, but how is your team physically, injury-wise, stuff like that?
We got a couple guys that'll be out. Shad Myers hurt. Alfred Fincher has a broken hand. Oz Hakeem will be questionable. That's probably the big ones right now. Everybody else is relatively healthy.
Do you think it helps, Jim, that you're playing Carolina?
All right, so from San Antonio, Texas, General Manager of the New Orleans Saints, McElveen, alongside head coach Jim Haslett, saying all the right things, I would imagine. Not a whole lot of hard answers about the future of the team. Of course, there are no answers, I guess, decided on at this point, but basically saying that their commitment, and this is what the Saints fans wanted to hear, their commitment is to New Orleans and being a major part, a leader, I think is how he put it, in the revitalization and reconstruction of the city.
They're going to begin the New Orleans Saints Hurricane Katrina Relief Fund. The Bensons will make the first contribution. At this point, here's what they have decided, is that there will not be any games in the Louisiana Superdome this year. Loomis says they would like to play in Baton Rouge, but that the league office has a lot to say about that. They are exploring that option as well as the option of playing in San Antonio. That is where they're going to practice this year, regardless of where they play their games, but they're going to practice in San Antonio. They have already talked to the Alamo Dome. They did not say definitively of whether they had or had not spoken to LSU or where those conversations were, but that would be their first choice, would be to play in the Tiger Stadium. Jim Haslett saying that he wanted his fans, or the Saints fans, to have an opportunity to watch them play. They really have some time, because the way it works out, they play Carolina first. That's on the road. That's September 11th, next Sunday. And then that was going to be their first home game with the New York Giants, Eli Manning's homecoming. That game is still technically a Saints home game, but they have decided to play that at East Rutherford at Giant Stadium. And then the third game, I believe, is at Minnesota. So they play their first 3 games on the road. That Giants game, according to what I had read, some of those proceeds will go to help Hurricane Relief Fund for Katrina, so that's good to hear about that. So they've really got some time as far as their first home game as to where they'll play.
And Coach Haslett interjecting a little humor there, although he didn't look like he was really in the mood for laughing, but saying, I don't know if you've ever looked at our home record versus our road record, but indicating that the Saints play pretty well on the road.
Yeah, they've been brutal at home.
Yeah.
Brutal at home. We want to thank certainly KENS, Ken.